We're on Memzay and Mebeis. We sort of ended in a little bit of a random place. We ended with that Dilma Ikloy Kois. I just don't. I honestly don't remember. I mean, if we did, I don't remember. Okay, let's just go back. If I don't remember, then I mean, we did Rav Yehuda Menayel Pesach Shein Shein Ton Lino. We did it. If Nisa Vok Valach Tolecha. Anyone? No. Oh, Hachanai Mistaber, right? Yeah. That's it. Also, but let's just get a. Okay, good. That's exactly what I've written down. I wanted to get a head start with the previous piece because that really lays the framework. So let's just go back. Just a quick chazara, and at the end of this year, we'll take a vote about tomorrow night, and we'll figure it out. But then I hope from Thursday straight we should be back on a normal schedule, right? No more holidays, no more what? But next week should be a strong week. Okay, so let's Shalom Rav David. Okay, so let's go back. Let's just go back there for a moment. Actually, no. V'savar Rav Yehuda. Let's start from there. V'savar Rav Yehuda Shemini Ta'un Lina. It's a little bit of a sidebar. We're 10 lines down. The first one line is Leikais. If you have the same Gemara as me, which you do not. V'savar Rav Yehuda Shemini Ta'un Lina. Frakti Gemara. Does Rav Yehuda really hold that the 8th day needs Lina? Again, Lina means that when you bring a carbon, I'm going to go drop quicker just to start. If I'm going too fast, you'll hit slow down. But does Rav Yehuda really hold that you need to stay overnight when you bring the carbon? Vatani, we learned in a Braisa. Rav Yehuda Omer Menayin lePesach Sheni. How do you know Pesach Sheni? She'inoi ta'on lina. You bring your carbon Pesach Sheni. You do not need to stay overnight. Shenemar ufanisa b'oker v'lach d'alech. You get up in the morning and you go to your tent. So that means if you're getting up in the morning, that means you stayed overnight. Uksiv, and what is those psukim referring to? Sheishes yamim teichal matzis. For 6 days we eat matzahs. So the Gemara says we see a connection between the eating of matzah to the staying overnight. So as sheta'in shisha, that which requires 6 days, ta'in lina, requires staying overnight. As she'enoi ta'in shisha, if it does not require 6 days, enoi ta'in lina. So what is that coming to teach us? Leme'utemai, says the Gemara, or is a Gersa change here in my lap. Lemute nami shmini shalchag. So we think this comes to say that the 8th day of Yantif does not have the same requirements, therefore will not have the din to stay overnight. Says the Gemara, Loi, Lemute Pesach Sheni Dekava, say the Pesach Sheni will not require Lina. Okay, that's a sidebar sigya regarding this newfangled din, a din of a carbon that you have to stay overnight when you bring a carbon. Yeah, that's for Lina. You get a mitzvah for Lina, 100%. It's a chelik of the carbon, believe it or not. It's a chelik of the carbon. Which, if you think about it, makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. If you think about it, and sleeping in Yerushalayim or Kiddush. Think about it, makes a lot of sense.
It's the invention of a motel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the invention of you're supposed to get the night free, maybe. But it shows the chashivas. If you bring, the carbon and run away, it's like, okay, God, here's your animal. I'm out of here. You bring the carbon and you stay overnight. It shows that you're involved in the matzah. Hochi nami mistaver, says the Gemara. This is mistaver. This is logical. Titanan. We learned in a Mishnah. Titanan. We learned in a Mishnah. And again, what is logical? If you look at Rashi, Rashi is directly across in the Rashis. What is logical? Rashi says, Deloy mima'id Rav Yehuda. The Rav Yehuda does not exclude Ella Pesach Sheni lechud. That only Pesach Sheni is included from Lina, which means what? That Shmini Atzeres, yes, has a din of Lina. That Pesach Sheni does not have a din of Lina, but Shmini Atzeres, yes, has a din of Lina. Says the Gemara, this is logical. Ditana, we learned in a Mishnah, Habikurim, the bringing of Bikurim, Teunim requires carbon. Number one, Bikurim are the first fruits. So when you bring your first fruits, number one, you have to bring a carbon shlamim. Number two, vishir. There's a din that you say shir when you bring the bikurim. Number three, tenufa. Tenufa means waving the carbon, waving the bikurim. Waving similar to like we do with our lulav. They would take the basket and they would wave it all different ways. Tenufa is a form of it's an avaida called waving. No. And as well, it requires staying overnight. So we have a Mishnah. And the Mishnah teaches us that bikurim, the bringing of your first fruits, has 4 dinim: carbon, shear, tenufa, and lina. Okay, so what does this show us? Man shamislei, who is the one that holds, literally who heard, but man shamislei, who is the opinion, to Amar that holds, Tinufa, who is the opinion that holds that Bikurim requires Tinufa, requires waving it. Rabbi Yehuda. It's Rabbi Yehuda. Vika Amar. And what else did it say it requires? Ta'un Lina. So we see that Rabbi Yehuda seemingly is requiring both Tinufa, waving, and Lina. Ditanya, as we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda Imer says Rabbi Yehuda, Vihi nachtai, and you shall place. Hanacha means to put down. Vihi nachtai, and you shall place. Rabbi Yehuda learns out what does the pasuk mean? It's the pasuk by the Bikurim, and the pasuk says you bring it to God and you place it in front of Hashem. What does it mean? You shall place it. Says Rabbi Yehuda. You know what it means to place it? Zu tinufa. This means to wave it. Says the Gemara. Why? Why is placing it, waving it? Ata oimer. You say zu tinufa. You're telling me that placing means waving? Or maybe Ella Hanacha Mamish. Maybe you know what it means to place it? To place it. Maybe it means actual Hanacha. Maybe that's what it means. Kishehu Oimer. When the pasuk says weiter, when the pasuk says further, vehinichai, and you should place it, so the pasuk uses this word placing 2 times. Hare hanacha amor. So you already know it's placed. So the pasuk is being repetitive. You place it and you should place it. So it's back to back. It's a few psukim in between. But says the Gemara, why does it have to say you place it 2 times? Hamani mekayim. With what do we fulfill vihi nachtoi? If the first time the pasuk said vihi nichoi, that means you should place it. So what's vihi nachtoi that you should place it? Says the Gemara, zu tenufa. This refers to tenufa. So what do we see? We see Rabbi Yehuda is the opinion that requires what? Tenufa. And what else is Rabbi Yehuda requiring? Lina. So what does this prove to us? We're referring to what in this brisa? Bikurim. The previous brisa that we started with today was also Rabbi Yehuda, if you paid attention. Go up a few lines. We said, Vahatanya, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Minayin lepesach sheni she'ein ta'in lina. That was also Rabbi Yehuda. And what did that Rabbi Yehuda say? That it's coming to exclude what? Only Pesach Sheni. So what's the raya? If we have a brisa that shows us Rabbi Yehuda, yes, requires lina by something else, so then it shows us, so what does he exclude from lina? Not bikurim, but Pesach Sheni. Again, there's 2 ways to bring a raya. We started off the Rabbi Yehuda says, you know what does not require lina? Pesach Sheni. I'm going to bring you a proof that Pesach Sheni does not require lina. What's the proof? The proof is a brisa that says Rabbi Yehuda holds bikurim, yes, requires lina. How is that a proof? Because if we see a brisa holds he yes requires lina by bikurim, that means what is excluded? Well, not bikurim. So what's going to be the one thing excluded? Pesach Sheni. So again, when the Torah excludes something, what does it mean when you exclude something? By very nature, it means you include everything else. So if I exclude Pesach Sheni, what does that mean? I include everything. How could I prove to you I include everything? By showing me a different brisa in which it's included. So now I have another brisa that shows us that Rabbi Yehuda holds that Bikurim is included in the din of Lina. And that is our raya that the only thing that is excluded is going to be Pesach Sheni.
You said the reason why you don't eat them by Pesach Sheni is because of Pesach.
Correct. So that's the raya. No, 100%. So the raya that Rav Yehuda says it's only Pesach Sheni and nothing else is if I show you elsewhere that he says this yes requires lina. So now you know, oh, only Pesach Sheni does not, like the pasuk how we darsh in the pasuk, but everything else yes requires lina. What's included in yes requiring lina? One's going to be bikurim. What else is it going to be? Arsugya, which is Shmini Atzeres. So the way to prove that Shmini Atzeres requires lina is by showing me that the only thing excluded is going to be Pesach Sheni. But what is the raya built upon? The raya is built on a Mishnah that said Bikurim has 4 unique dinim. What are the 4 unique dinim? Carbon, shear, tenufa, and lina. And if I prove that it's Rav Yehuda that requires tenufa, it makes sense that he requires lina. So now, if I want to disprove the raya, what do I show you? If I show you that it's not Rav Yehuda, because again, the Bryce didn't say Rav Yehuda. Bryce just said it requires these 4 things, and I prove that it's Rav Yehuda that requires tenufa, and by extension, he requires lina. So if I could show you someone else that requires tenufa, that would be the disproof. Says the Gemara that detail.
They're using the word for.
Good. So yeah, good. So let's go in order. We started today with a brisa. The brisa says.
Who cares about the whole two? They're using 2 different words.
Good. So let's put everything in order. Step number 1, we have a brisa. In the brisa, Rav Yehuda says Pesach Sheni does not require lina. We learn it from a pasuk, which to us, why is this coming in over here? Because it's only Pesach Sheni doesn't require lina. What yes requires lina? Shmini Atzeres. Gevaldik. I'm going to bring you a proof to that. There's a Mishnah, and the Mishnah says Bikurim requires lina. What's the proof from a Mishnah about Bikurim to Shitas Rabbi Yehuda? Because it didn't only say it requires lina. What else does it require? Tenufa, also carbon and but tenufa. So who is the Shita that holds Bikurim requires tenufa? Gemara proves it's Rabbi Yehuda. So if Rabbi Yehuda requires tenufa, that means he requires lina. That means now we have a riot to step 1, which is what? What's going to be the only thing excluded from lina? Pesach Sheni. That is the raya of the Gemara. The Gemara now comes along, and the Gemara says, not so fast. The Dilma, perhaps, Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, how do you know the Shita? And the Brisa is Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara in the Mishnah, excuse me. No, I said, was it Mishnah or Brisa? No, it was Mishnah, the Tanam Bikurim. How do you know? Excuse me. Whoa. How do you know that it is Rabbi Yehuda? Maybe it's Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. Titania, as we learned in a brisa, v'lokach hakoyin hatena miyadecha. The koyin takes the tena as the basket. The koyin takes the basket miyadecha from your hands. Limeid, this teaches us al habikurim, on bikurim shetuunin tenufa, that requires tenufa. Why? Because what is the kohen doing when he takes the basket from the owner's hands of the bikurim? He's waving it. Divrei Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. So now we see 1 second. Who holds that bikurim requires tenufa? Not only Rav Yehuda, but also Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. So if Rav Elazar ben Yaakov holds it requires tenufa, we have no longer a raya that it was Rav Yehuda that held that it needs lina. Why not? Because maybe it's Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. My time of Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, says the Gemara. Why? Where does Rav Elazar ben Yaakov get this dim from? Asya yad mishlamim. He learns Exir Shava. The Torah says the word yad 2 different times, one by Bikurim and one by Shlamim. Asya yad mishlamim. Ksiv hacha. It says over here by Bikurim. V'lokach hakoyin hatena miyadecha, and the koyin takes the basket. Uksiv hasam, and it says by the carbon shlamim yadav tivi'ena. with his hands he should bring it. Es Ishe Hashem, the carbon to Hashem. So the both psukim use the word yad, hands. Hama ani, excuse me, ma kan koyin. Just like in the first case, it's the koyin. Af lahalon. So too in the second case by the shlamim, it is the koyin. Uma lahalon, and just like in the case of the shlamim, it's the bailim. Afkan, so too by bikurim, it is the bailim. So what does that mean? What does that mean? That you take it from his hands, but it is with the owner. Ha ketzad, how is this possible? If I take something from you, then you're not holding it. How could I take it from you and you're still holding it? Says Gemara, I'll tell you a very simple way. Koyin meiniach yodei tachas yad bailim. The bailim come with their basket of bikurim. The bailim show up, and it says the kohen takes it. But we're learning that what does it mean? He takes it. He takes it, but the owner is still with him. What does that mean? So the kohen places his hand underneath the owner's hands, and then the kohen waves the bikurim together with the owner. Avkan bailim ha keitzad kohen miniach yadai tachas yad bailim umenif, and he waves it.
The Kohen's not doing it himself.
So the Kohen's doing it together with the Bailim, correct? But it shows us Rav Elazar ben Yaakov holds there is tenufa by Bikurim. If there's tenufa by Bikurim, we have a raya to Rabbi Yehuda. We don't have a raya, period. That finishes our little left turn segue into the halachos of Lina. But now let's go full circle, and we'll get to the Mishnah, and then we're going to have to, it's actually a beautiful place that we'll have to have some chazara. Says the Gemara, Allah. What's the maskana? About what? Maskana about what? We have a lot of open-ended dinim, right? So look at Rashi. Rashi, last two words of the page teaches us, you know what we're asking about? Tizman b'shmini. What's lemaisa about Shechianu on Shmini Atzeres? Says the Gemara. Here it goes, a bunch of names. Rav Nachman Amar, Oimrim Zman B'Shmini Atzeres. Yes, Shechianu. Rav Sheshis Amar, Ein Oimrim Zman B'Shmini Atzeres. So, what's the halacha? The Hilchasa, here it is. This, of course, is what we do. Oimrim Zman B'Shmini Atzeres. We say Shechianu on Shmini Atzeres. And the Gemara says, I'll bring you a raya. Tanya Kavose, let's bring you a raya to Rav Nachman. Again, what did Rav Nachman hold that you yes say Zman? Tanya Kavose, let's bring a raya. Shmini, and we should hopefully be familiar. We had this just before in Amud Aleph. On the top of Amud Aleph, Regel Bifnei Atzmoi. Shmini is its own yantif. Le'inyin. With regard to, in what way is Shmini Atzeres its own yantiv? Pizar Kishav. What is Pizar Kishav? The Gemara, yes, and the Gemara is about to explain. Pious, a lottery, that's the pay Bifnei Atzmai. It has its own lottery. Zman, that's the Zayin Bifnei Atzmai. That's Shechianu. Regel Bifnei Atzmai, it's its own yantiv, which refers to that you don't sit in the sukkah. Carbon bifnei atzmai, it has its own karbanos. Shira bifnei atzmai, and finally bracha bifnei atzmai, which refers to as Yom Chag Hashmini or Shmini Chag Atzeres Hazeh. So that last little shtickle is just a maskana about the Shechianu. The previous shtickle was a sidebar about Lina, which is an important middle piece. So let's stop over here now.